I realized that we're in this town hall and all these students who are of the same age. Some of them were even younger. They were like 16 years old from Canada, from US, from the UK, from Australia, wherever it was. They spoke with such confidence. They were so outspoken. They had such intellectual thoughts. Their thought process was so, I guess, advanced from my perspective versus where I was. And so then I started questioning myself, like, the imposter syndrome is real, right? What am I doing here? Am I worthy to represent Malaysia here? I mean, I do not have the confidence by any measure at the same level.
Hey everyone, before we begin this next episode of the Hello Mentor podcast, I just want to say, if you're job searching or hiring, check out hiredly.com. We are not just another job platform. We make it easier to find the jobs that people actually want, and we help companies stand out to hire the right talent. So there's a lot of smart tech and there's a lot of human touch. That's Hiredly. So you can head to hiredly.com and give it a go. Hey everyone, it's another episode of the Hello Mentor podcast. I have Joan Low here with us. She's the founder of ThoughtFull. And I met Joan many years ago. We go quite a long way back, but I've not seen you in a while. This is the first time I've seen you after at least 5-6 years or so.
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
It's been a while.
Yeah. So maybe you can give us a quick intro and tell us like what's up with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. My name's Joan. I'm the founder and CEO for ThoughtFull, and we're a Temasek-backed digital mental health company that is simplifying the entire mental health journey for people so that they can grow professionally as well as personally. And we've been in the business of providing seamless end-to-end care for a lot of employees around the region. And yeah, it's been quite a journey from when we started in 2020, and even before that, the behind the scenes of ThoughtFull in 2018. It's been quite a bit, and actually that's when I met you, right?
Right.
In 2018.
That's right.
When I was borrowing your beanbags.
Right. It was just being set up at that time. Is it 2018?
Yeah. So 2018, I actually moved back from Hong Kong at that time after having spent about 6 years there, and I was back in Malaysia, thinking of what the next chapter would be. And this is where I guess the seedlings of where ThoughtFull started, when I realized that maybe there's something more impactful that I could do in mental health, because that time in Malaysia, being back, was also time with the family and really getting to re-immerse myself back after having been away for almost 15 years. And I think that's when I realized that mental health was still a very big issue. One of my own family members have been living with mental health challenges for more than 20 years now. And actually, it's more than 25 years now. So it's been a while. And I think at that time, I always thought of it as separate from a professional career. It's just, that problem in the family that just needs solving, rather than something you would take on seriously. And so the moment when I met you in 2018, I was actually still finding my bearings. It was a bit of a reverse culture shock. I'm not going to lie. I left at 17, came back at 30. And so I was really finding my bearings and getting to equate myself back with Southeast Asia, with Malaysia, with home, and really is trying to see if, hey, mental health is something that's been a challenge in our own family for 20 odd years. Do other people go through that as well? What are they doing? Are they doing anything differently? Have solutions changed over the last few decades? And all of those questions were basically the initial hypotheses of what I was doing. And that's how I started asking for your beanbags, because I actually just went to the ground and did a lot of community work. Did free workshops, partnered with psychiatrists, created modules for mental health. And those beanbags were actually in, I think, one of the community events that we were doing. And so thank you for being a part of our founding story. When we were nobody, and, we didn't even know where it would go at that point. What would it be a mental health foundation or an NGO, or would it be a tech startup, or what format it was. I didn't really know at that time, and so
you just knew what problem you wanted.
I just knew what problem I wanted to solve. I didn't know what the solution or the format would be.
I see. Right.
That was the exploration phase.
I see. Yeah. And then how has that evolved? Like when you first realized you wanted to solve this problem, and how has the platform or product evolve over time?
Oh, tremendously. Right. So I think between 2018 to 2020, I would call it almost like really an exploration phase, a very deep research into what the users would go through. I didn't even call them users at that time. They were just people around. And at that time, what we realized after doing all this community work was a couple of things. One was that mental health is definitely something that needed a bit more awareness of. This is pre-pandemic, right? So very different. For all the assessments that we were doing, and these were clinical assessments that we were doing, we realized that almost 1/3 of the people we reached, so this is like a couple of thousand people actually, were either severe or extremely severe in one or more categories of stress, anxiety, or depression.
Oh, wow.
And these are working individuals in the corporates. So they're all high performing, just functioning under tremendous stress and anxiety. And so when I realized that there is this need, whether they realized it or not, then the next step would be, hey, how can we help and, work with you, to move towards more optimal mental well-being? And I think that's when, we started digging deeper into the ecosystem. What was true then is still true today. Mental health is a very fragmented, ecosystem. Large parts of where people seek mental well-being is actually outside of the healthcare system. Counselors, psychologists, they're not doctors who sit in hospitals and clinics. They have centers. They're allied health workers. So it's very fragmented. From even within Malaysia, where you've got like more than 10,000 counselors and another couple thousand psychologists.
Right.
And I think it was one of those things where you actually have to ask, right, beyond just knowing that mental health is important, the next thing is always action. Like, what can you do? And so really when we started putting all these pieces together, that's how I guess ThoughtFull's mission, which has not actually changed very much, because I think, it targets the root problem, right? How do we simplify the whole journey of mental health through all these fragmentations, to really help people to grow better? Right. And so in 2020, when we launched officially, that's really when I think everything, lightning in a bottle, it kind of came together.
Right.
And so since then, we've been helping people through, providing them care easily, end to end. So whether you're thriving, going from good to great, we have something for you. Whether you're maybe having some challenges and trying to get back to baseline, we also have something for you. So from preventive to curative, all the way to crisis, we kind of journey with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And is it an app, or is it like a web app or like a mobile app?
Yeah. So for the individuals who come on board with us, they will have access to ThoughtFull's app, whereby it's a one-stop platform for them to access things like assessments, self-serve tools such as lesson packs, learning more about creating healthy boundaries with your in-laws, or how do I have more effective conversations with my boss. So all these lesson packs are very bite-sized.
Oh, interesting.
And then if let's say they want to build positive daily habits, which at the end of the day we are your well-being companion, right, through life. Mindfulness tools, mood trackers, thought journals, all of these things are there. But for people who are curious, who maybe want to engage with someone but don't know where to go, who to go to, how to engage, then that's where our algorithms will help you find your best fit mental health professional. They're all trained counselors and psychologists. You get 3 options. You pick one, and you essentially jump into a text conversation with them. So it's unlimited text-based coaching. It's all bite-sized and daily. So I think at the end of the day, similar to how you're talking with your friends on WhatsApp, talking to, your spouse or your partner, in your day-to-day, this is that well-being companion with you day-to-day as well, who's objective, who is there to serve as your mirror as well, to help ask questions so that you can discover more about yourself. And I think that's always a very good place to start. So text-based therapy is really one of our signatures because it is also clinically proven. And then, of course, if they want to go deeper, all through the app as well, you want to book video therapy, face-to-face therapy, or in the, situation where maybe you want to just pick up the phone and talk to someone.
Right.
Then our counselors are always available as well for 24/7 holidays. Yeah. So we're actually in 12 different languages now. And we serve actually across the globe. So we started off in Southeast Asia, Malaysia and Singapore. And now, we've got a network of professionals across 30 over languages now.
Wow.
Across the globe. So very exciting.
I was listening to you share how the platform was. I was very curious. Let's say before an app or platform existed, if someone had, say, it was going through a mental health issue, right? And what would they do? I try to imagine what would they do, right? Because it's something as much as there's so much conversation around it, I still think there's still a lot of stigma. No one wants to admit, right? Very few want to admit they have this issue.
Yeah.
What to do? I mean, actually, what do they call a counselor? Where do they find a counselor? Because it's so private, they want someone they can trust.
Yeah.
Maybe they talk to their friends. I wonder, right? So on the app itself, when they first land, how does it start? Is there an assessment, or is it you're free to kind of explore what you want?
You're free to explore what you want,
right?
Because I think sometimes if you try to push them down a pathway that they're not ready for, then that's where they kind of step back and close the door, right? And we didn't want it to be an environment where you were pushed into one direction when you're not ready. And so that's why, when they land on the app, there's the first thing you'll see is actually my ThoughtFull journey. So again, it's things that you can do on a daily basis. And a lot of the things that we do is very much focused on preventive mental well-being. And so a lot of it is building healthier habits. Are you aware of what your mood is today? What's driving that? Is it work? Is it a conversation with a client? Is it your kids having a tantrum? What was driving that mood behind that? You also see things like having a tool to help you get into a practice of mindfulness, finding pauses, whether small, a couple minutes on the MRT, for example, or while you're in the traffic jam, waiting for the traffic lights and not moving. All these things are little tools that will help ease you into it. Of course, we also have people who know exactly what they want. They might already be having maybe specific problems that they're trying to solve for. And so there are some people who know that we, for example, have counselors and psychologists on the other end. And so come in very specifically for text-based coaching. And so it really depends on what people want. But we do have a rough daily habit builder. That's the first thing they see. And so they can just go through it like a checklist. In fact, if you do it every day and just go through that checklist every day, I think you'll already have better resilience than if you did not.
So, I see.
So it's pretty simple.
Right. So the lightweight way to start is just try these little daily habits.
Yes.
All right. Oh, that's great. And you call it preventive. Is it it's more preventive?
Yeah, it's more preventive. I mean, it's very similar to how, for example, you don't wait till you have a toothache before you brush your teeth. You brush your teeth every day. You also will try and increase the steps that you have and exercise before you start breaking your bones or having your muscles deteriorate. And so I think it's something that should be ingrained into your daily life. If there's one thing that I would hope to achieve and eliminate by doing our job successfully is people asking the question, why mental health? Because, I mean, no one asks you, why do I need to brush my teeth twice a day, right? Everyone knows. Why do I need to increase more steps or exercise? People know. If not, then, you start putting on weight. There's, your muscles won't get strengthened and all of that. And it's one of those truisms that I hope for mental health, it will be the same thing. Why do I need to be more aware of my emotions? Why do I need to know how to lean into pauses and gaining control again of the situation, of your mind, of your thoughts, and yeah, I hope that's something that will be just part of your daily happening.
Right. And then I was also very curious about your life before you came back to Malaysia, right? Because you're not, I mean, yeah, obviously I know your background a little bit. You're from like JP Morgan and all that, right? So like, I wonder, maybe you can tell us a bit about that, and also how that might sort of relate to what you're doing now.
Yeah, I think my journey has been one that was not very planned, but somehow came into place, but very much heavily driven by believing that your current situation and current constraints should not limit what you dare to dream to achieve. So just to give you a bit of background, I mean, I come from a very, I would say, normal family. I would say middle class or pretty average from a socioeconomic status. We are first generation. My siblings and I are first generation graduates. My dad was, overseeing work in the factory. My mom a government servant, and so in all circumstances, it is a very, I would say, middle class average family. But yet I think we were very blessed to have parents who knew their circumstances, but did not let any kind of limitations limit what we want to achieve. And so, for example, even though it was not really on the cards for me to be able to study abroad for mostly financial reasons, it was something that I was encouraged to think beyond current circumstances and find a way, whether through scholarships, whether through grants, loans, whatever it is. If there's a will, there's a way. And I was always encouraged to dream big. Go to the best schools if you want. There's nothing stopping you. If you want to do it, there will always be a way. And I think that kind of mindset, that kind of courage to dare to dream, actually starts building confidence. Because whether or not my parents realized it, by inculcating that kind of mindset, it also taught me to believe in myself, that if there's something that I would like to achieve, that there's nothing that would stop us from getting there. And so, I mean, I've been very blessed as well throughout my life. I mean, I told you earlier, I left at 17 and came back at 30. Right after Form 5, I, by hook or by crook, somehow found a scholarship. And it was a scholarship that really changed my life, to be very honest, because it was to a school that was very much focused on developing the agents of change for tomorrow. So the school, I mean, it's, United World College. They're all around now in the world. But when it was started by the same person who founded our Bound School. Nelson Mandela was our president at that time. It was really one of those things that blew my world apart, literally, because it was a scenario that I never even knew could exist. That fateful scholarship took me to Canada. I was there for 2 years. I was the only Malaysian there out of the whole cohort. There were 190 students, but 101 or 104 countries represented. So So literally, it was like a mini United Nations. And I think that fateful scholarship and that chapter in my life really changed the trajectory of everything, which probably, accumulated in the confidence that I have today to start something, even though I'm not a mental health trained person, and I've never run a business before, but yet I saw a problem, I wanted to solve it, and I still went ahead and did it. And I think it's because when you're thrown into that kind of deep end, and there's everyone around, and literally I was in a boarding school with oil tycoons from Alberta to, refugees from Rwanda and Somalia. So the spectrum was so wide that you really started to realize that your sense of being is always in relation to all these different, people and circumstances around the world. It creates a heightened self-awareness. I got asked questions that quite literally were existential for any 18-year-old at that time. Why do you celebrate Chinese New Year when you don't speak Chinese? I don't know. It's just how it is. Why do you call yourself Chinese when, you're from Malaysia? And it's true, I was representing the Malaysian flag at that time. And so there were a lot of existential questions that were thrown at you at a very young age, which then gives you a very acute sense of critical thinking. Because you don't just accept things anymore, you have to question things. You have to be curious, not just about the world, but even about yourself. Assumptions you made before, things that you thought were just a given, are not. And you start questioning. You look into it and you try and find answers. And I think that really set kind of the stage for when I realized that truly, true to the word of what my parents said, right? If there's a will, there's a way, and you do your best and God will do the rest. And I think from then on, the next thing that it led me to, for example, was a college in the US as well. Again, on a full scholarship. No middle class family at that time in Malaysia would ever dream of sending someone to a top 5 liberal arts school in the US that costs ringgit 1 million for just 3 years. Actually, it's like 1.2 million ringgit. There's no way for where I was coming from. And so again, very blessed in that journey. And I think from that chapter in college, I realized a couple of things. One is that you do not have to be boxed in to what I guess society sometimes thinks you should be boxed into. In a liberal arts school, you're truly encouraged to explore everything, from the sciences to the math to different languages to the arts. And so my classes looked like Italian opera, all the way to political science, which I ended up majoring in, economics, calculus. But at the same time, I spent majority of my time also learning Chinese, as well as, ironically, I learned Chinese in the US, Chinese and French. And, it started really exercising, I guess, cognitive muscles that were never explored before. Because when I was in Malaysia, a lot of the times, if you're smart, you do science stream. If you do science stream, you become a doctor. Sometimes maybe engineer or accountant, but doctor number one. And so all of a sudden, I was in these environments where you almost took these assumptions or societal norms into stride, and then you try and question it. Why? Why do I need to be a doctor? I don't.
And just building on that, I was thinking about, because you did say that, you're from like a middle class family, and you were sort of fortunate enough to, get a scholarship. You went to Canada, you went to America, you saw like a different world. And it wasn't like it wasn't so much that you lived in Canada, but the place you're in had such a wide range or like spectrum of different people from different backgrounds, and it sort of expanded your intellectual range, if you like the way you approach things, and you went to science and the arts. As a I guess a typical Malaysian may not get the opportunity, if you like, to get exposed to these things. And as we were talking about this off camera earlier, I was also quite fortunate in the sense that I managed to live and work in the UK for a while. But prior to that, I also saw the world as somewhat intimidating in some sense, right? Because Malaysia is like this small little country, and when you read the news, you read about
in between Singapore and Thailand.
Yes. And obviously, with the world news is usually about what's happening in America, what's happening in Japan, what's happening in Singapore. So I don't know, what would you say to that Malaysian who is sitting here listening to all this? But that's not for me. I don't know.
To be honest, I was very much in the same, I guess, mindset as well, right? Malaysia is a small country, and I who am I to stand amongst giants in a way? Even though you looked up to these giants, you would never see yourself there because sometimes maybe representation is not there. And I think one of the things that I realized very clearly at that point was these limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves. I remember very clearly calling home in the first 2 weeks of school when I was in boarding school in Canada. Calling home to my dad, my late dad, with whom I'm very close to, and crying because I realized that we're in this town hall and all these students who are of the same age. Some of them were even younger. They were like 16 years old from Canada, from US, from the UK, from Australia, wherever it was. They spoke with such confidence. They were so outspoken. They had such intellectual thoughts. Their thought process was so, I guess, advanced from my perspective versus where I was. And so then I started questioning myself, like, the imposter syndrome is real, right? What am I doing here? Am I worthy to represent Malaysia here? I mean, I do not have the confidence by any measure at the same level. But then I think over time, as I started putting myself in these situations, surrounding myself with these people, I realized that actually at the end of the day, the only thing that was limiting me to be as confident, to be as vocal, to be as well thought out, was myself. And I realized I had all these limiting beliefs, right? This is not for me. Public speaking is not for me. This is an identity you start creating for yourself, right? I'm not from, Western countries. And so therefore, I shouldn't, vocalize so much and share my opinions, and things like that. All these were limiting beliefs because why not? Again, I think if there's anything that my education, chapters taught me was to always question. And in fact, I was forced by the environment I was in to also start questioning. And I think once I overcame these things, then, it really opened up the whole world. And so for any Malaysians who, sometimes I also feel, when I meet them, right, that there is this limiting belief that leads on to a bit of an inferiority complex. I would really challenge them to look within, ask why. Why do you think that, Singapore is better? Why do you think that Hong Kong is better? Why do you think that Chinese people are faster? When you yourself can be, right? At the end of the day, we're all humans. Yes. Are we a product of the environment that we're in? Yes, to a certain degree. But how you react to the environment, what you decide to do, the decisions that you take, what you question within that environment, is totally in your control. And so, I would definitely encourage Malaysians, especially students, fresh grads, those early in their career, don't limit yourself. If there's something that you want to achieve beyond where you are now, when there's a will, there's a way.
And you mentioned about how important it is to question assumptions, also question limiting beliefs and all that. Are there any particular limiting beliefs or assumptions that you think Malaysians might have like anything specific, that you think we should try to change?
Yeah, I think it is always thinking that people abroad are better. I think that's one limiting belief that we should really scrutinize, question, and try and verify. because I truly believe that there's so much talent here. We are truly blessed as well to be in a melting pot of cultures. Any average Malaysian would be able to speak one sentence with at least 3 to 4 languages in there. That is a blessing. That is a USP, a unique selling point of any individual in Malaysia, because it's something that others cannot claim to. So I truly believe that if we looked at ourselves honestly, objectively, without maybe, the inner voices that tell us not to, you'll find that there's treasure within ourselves. These limiting beliefs that, people abroad are, they're better. People in UK, US or whatever, they're better. They're not. They have their own limitations, and as do we. And I think we just really should focus on the strengths, see what there is, and then truly amplify that. Yeah. And get out of our own way. Yeah.
No, I heard once, not just once, a few times though, because obviously, I was building a startup and stuff, and
yes.
Southeast Asia is a very unique sort of fragmented region. Mm-hmm. And I've heard many times people commenting that, a founder that can scale a business within Southeast Asia might come from Malaysia. And because of, we're so used to not just the language capabilities and all that, but we're so used to living in like diverse cultures.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Code switching. Code switching is like it's a muscle memory that we have that we don't even realize we have.
Yes. So it's like you automatically, when you go to a different country, you automatically know how to adapt, right? Because you're so used to adapting.
We're highly adaptable. Yes. And I think that is something that everyone should really use as a strength and see how they can deepen and amplify. So, for example, when I was picking up, I guess, new languages, so to speak, Chinese and French at that time, I realized because of the exposure we have just by living in Malaysia, knowing the different cultures and listening to different types of dialects and accents and slang, we were able to pick these up very easily. And truly, when you can connect with someone in their local language, in their local slang, that's when doors open, opportunities abound, and that in itself is a skill that just came from the environment that we were in. So yeah.
Right. And moving back to like I guess mental health and like Asian cultures and all that, right? Do you think that there's this concept that you are supposed to suffer in your job in Asia?
You're like supposed to what?
Like suffer, like like suffering. Like you are. It's like a hard work and working. Working while suffering is glorified.
I mean, from finance, I do know what you mean.
Yes.
The badge of honor. Sometimes.
Yes. It's like I worked like 12 hours to like midnight, and next day I'm in again the office, and people are really proud of it.
Let's see. I would actually look at it across different generations. Because it's not the same, the mindset for different generations. I think on the one hand, your baby boomers, your Gen Ys, for example, I think this, and even to a certain extent, the middle generation, like millennials, right, which is where I fall into. I think there is a bit of this sentiment where if you don't grind, you don't earn your stripes. And so, the balance off of that is to ensure that there is awareness of how important rest is as well. But then as you get into different generations now, when you go into your Gen Zs, your Gen Alphas, my kids will be in beta, for example, I think there is almost this idealization of how jobs need to only be things that they like doing. And it's true that they did grow up in an environment where maybe it's a little bit more cocooned. Maybe they scraped their knees less because they had all these pads all around them. And that translates to, schools before. I mean, when we went to school, for example, you will get reprimanded and disciplined by the teacher. And parents will just let the teacher do their job. But today, when I send my kids to school, for example, they're reporting to me every day to make sure that they know, that they're doing their job, and they don't even dare to discipline the child because parents will come in as a helicopter. And so then you have completely different spectrums, because for this generation, your Gen Zs and all of that, when it comes to mental health, resilience is important. And resilience only comes with actually going through hardship and working through problems yourself and figuring it out yourself. That's how resilience come about. That's how you know, and that's how you build confidence as well, that you can surmount the challenge in front of you on your own, and you can solve problems that are complex. And I think that is something that in the workplace now, and even for me as an employer, you always have to make sure that the messaging is balanced, right? And catered to where that individual is coming from, which generation are they coming from? Because there is no perfect job in this world. There will be no job where you love 100% of everything that you do, even if it was your passion and you continue down that pathway of doing what you're passionate about. Your passion will at some point become a burden as well, because then it becomes your job. And so I think knowing that is very important. And on the flip side, for the older generation, where maybe suffering is the only way to gain your stripes and credibility, the message there will be that there are other aspects that also come into that equation, right? And we got to balance it out. Like, you don't have to work through your sickness. If you need rest, then rest and then come back again stronger. And so I think that the messaging is very different at both ends.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. So at the end of the day, like the best, the right way is somewhere in the middle, I suppose. Of course, everyone needs to build some muscle to do the things that they don't like doing.
Yeah.
Right. You can't just avoid it and and it doesn't make you better again, right? It actually makes you weaker in some sense.
Yeah, and there's also a truth to be said that what you don't like doing today might not be what you don't like to do tomorrow. Because once you've mastered it, you will like doing it.
Right.
And then you become very good at it, and then maybe it becomes your strength.
Right.
Similarly, if kids are scared of water and don't want to go into the water, they'll never be swimmers. But they have to kind of do it again and again until they get there. And so, yeah, I think it's always going to be a mindset shift. There are folks who come into this world and think everything is a problem that they need to suffer through. Maybe there's a balance to that. And there are those that only want to do everything that they already like and not explore things that maybe they are not sure about yet. And I think to those, let's explore. Be inquisitive, be objective. Ask, try again. If you try it a couple of times, it's not going to stick, then that's fine. But at least you try.
Yeah, I like that. As in, like, sometimes it's not that they don't like it. That feeling could just be because they're unfamiliar. And in general, I think it's human nature to have, you may not have the best feeling for something that you're unfamiliar with, because there's risks, and then, you have to start using your brain, it takes a lot of energy, right? You have to do the work that you're not familiar with. But once you actually do it and you're familiar, maybe you might like it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know yet,
Yeah. Sometimes it's a bit of fear of the discomfort. And that's actually something that I had to work through as well as a founder. Oddly enough, it was someone who I was working with through ThoughtFull's app as well. But I realized as a founder, it was also a situation where you will do a lot of things that you're not comfortable with, that you are scared of, that you are very bad at. and somehow you just still need to do it. And I did struggle through that, to be honest, because I think, so for me, for example, I am not used to failure, or I was not used to failure, because like I mentioned, right, like I was always on a pathway where, scholarship after scholarship, and then, internships with big companies after internships, and then a job that was very comfortable. All of that, like there was always a very clear pathway to the game. What winning was, what the gameplay was, and then once you have that roadmap, then you just go on and try and win it. But I realized in startups, when I started ThoughtFull, there's no roadmap. And in 2018, no one was talking about mental health. Let's be real. It was only after the pandemic where, the conversations are mainstream. And so you're suddenly in a place where the gameplay is not set out. You are in some Roblox environment where you're building while you're moving, figuring it out. And the gameplay changes as well, which then sets you up in an environment where you will 100% be more likely to fail more than you will succeed. That was highly uncomfortable for me. And that was really when I also leaned into my own, services. And again, it wasn't like, you are struggling or sick or having, mental health challenges already, right? This is really just about resilience building in your everyday life. I'm starting a new job. I've never done this job before. I've never built a company before. How do I do it? There are things I'm scared of. How do I face those fears? And that's when really I found, coaching, counseling actually helped a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Because it gave me perspectives to, again, question, why am I fearing this? Why am I procrastinating? Again, every Malaysian will be able to identify with procrastination. And sometimes underlying procrastination is actually anxiety. And so then questioning, what am I anxious about specifically? Can I mitigate that? Can I view it differently? Can I maybe break it down into smaller bite sizes so that it's less daunting? All of those things I think are almost like life hacks, really, on how to grow. Yeah.
Right. I'm reminded that in Hierarchy we built this young leaders community, which we're overdue a meetup. But what it was it started off as us reaching out to people who are still in their 20s and they're already leading and managing teams, and we sort of gathered to say, how are you? Like, do you get do you get a lot of support, maybe like peer-to-peer stuff? But one question kind of stood out for me actually when I met all these people, and many of them faced this, and they said something along the lines of, okay, I understand like what people believe of us as a generation. And I said, I feel I'm different. I feel I am ambitious, right? And I'm working very hard. I want to succeed, but I feel a bit burnt out. So did I feel a bit burnt? And I'm questioning is, am I burnt out because I'm not good enough? Actually, should I push through? Is so, or actually, am I really burnt out? So they don't know where the line is. Like they're trying to break through to that next level, but they are struggling. And then they sort of ask me the question, how do I know where's the line? Am I at my limit or am I not at my limit? And I didn't know how to answer that question, to be frank. I don't remember how I answered it, but I don't think I gave a good answer. But what do you think about this? I'm not sure if you understand.
I do, actually. That's a fantastic question to ask, and I think it should be more widely discussed, especially for manager training than not. But I think even at the individual level, right, the fundamental question is, how do I know where my limit is? When do I know whether it's a false limit and I need to push, or whether it's a real limit and I need to step back? I think that's the fundamental question here. And sometimes it is true that you only learn after you've actually crossed the line and then pull back. But sometimes if you wait too long to a point where there's a point of no return, then that's too late, right? So then how do we build the awareness around where we are currently, and how close we are to the precipice. I think this is where it's helpful to almost paint the picture of where past the precipice is, and then where we should kind of pull back from. If you find yourself at some point not being able to function on a daily basis, to a point where your burnout is crippling. So what are some of the signs of burnout, right? Burnout is another word that is maybe a bit over glorified, which it shouldn't. It is not a badge of honor, but it is something to be very mindful of. So, for example, what are some of these signs, right, of when it is close to the edge? If it's disrupting how you actually function usually, when you see a change, whether it is in your mental clarity, how fast you make decisions, or how slow you now take to make decisions, it can sometimes come across as overthinking, and then we just brush it off, right? But is there something that is causing us to overthink more than normal, for example? Because then that might be a sign of something that's causing a lot of anxiety. That's why we overthink. We don't make the decision. We keep on ruminating. And so when there is a significant change between where you normally are versus where you are today, that's something to definitely take note of. And it can be in different formats, right? It could be in your thought process, like I said, length of time to make decisions, overthinking, ruminating, constantly circling around, specific topics all the time to a point where it keeps you up. So in your thoughts, there are changes. Sometimes in how you speak. Maybe you used to speak with more confidence and then now you don't. Maybe now you're more cautious. Maybe now you're a bit more afraid. And then, we ask why. Or it could be physiological as well. Somatic type of indicators. Has your sleep patterns changed? Outside of any, direct triggers, has anything changed? Is a conversation with a direct report that you have something that is keeping you up at night because you don't know how to go about it? You don't know how to manage the situation. Have you eaten? Are you eating more? Again, stress eating is another one that people glorify a little bit and almost validate overeating. Again, is there a change in your eating patterns? Eating more, eating less? All of these things are actually indicators of past the precipice. And so, for those who are not sure how close they are to it, maybe, write down that checklist. Are certain things changing? And if yes, ask why. And what can you do? And sometimes it's also about the operating model. So right now, for example, within ThoughtFull as well, the last couple of years, we've talked a lot about operating models, because a lot of times people who tend to push themselves to the limit or past the limit are people who will continuously do it because it's their modus operandi. They are so used to being ambitious and pushing to a point where they will push over and then maybe step back a bit, recover from that burnout, and then go back in again with the exact same modus operandi that will lead them down that same pathway. And so I think it's also very important to understand yourself better. And in the corporate setting, it's very true, right? Because in corporates, for example, if you are an overachiever, a high performer, they will just keep on giving things to you to do. And so you have to know your modus operandi. You need to know where your boundaries are. And then you need to basically understand, hey, I operated in my 20s this way. Is my 30s and 40s going to look the same with the same operating model? What has changed in my life? Do I need to change how I operate? Do I need to change what I tell myself, for example? And these are all the indicators and tools to basically help us manage burnout.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to shift a little bit to the ThoughtFull as a platform. Mm-hmm. Now they're talking about seeking help, and you did mention that there's a lot of text-based coaching that's on the platform, and I suppose behind the scenes there are counselors that will help you do the texting and all that. So Was it easy to roll out this idea? Is it a new concept in this world, or
Back when we started off, yes. Especially in pre-pandemic days when we rolled out, it was something very different. In fact, I think a lot of counselors were very hesitant actually to even come on board. Because there are a lot of the typical reasonings for that, which are also valid, are things like, on text, you cannot see body language. You can't see their emotions. You can't hear their voice intonation. There's a lot of things you can't do, right? And so then you're inhibited by those limitations and therefore cannot give the best care. But the fact of the matter is there are different formats for different people. And I think if we open up our minds to different ways of communicating, different ways of connecting, then that's really something that opens up different doors. And so, for example, all those things that I said about, building self-awareness about where our boundaries are, where is our precipice, so to speak, and where's our limit. All of those things are things that, quite honestly, are inner work that can be done with professionals in any format, whether text or video or phone or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It's just whatever is suitable for you. And so it's again something that should be as simple as, like, today I texted someone on the way in because I didn't know where the office was. That was on my phone. So same thing, right? Like, we're communicating, we're connecting, and I think in today's world where you even have AI who's playing therapist sometimes, right. Very dangerous. I would throw caution to the wind there. Then it's similar. It's just connecting with people where they are at.
Right. And you said that, we read, I've researched, and then it does seem like you work with a lot of big insurance companies, right? Was that how you sort of distribute the platform and all that?
Yeah, so we've been B2B from day one. I realized that for a topic such as mental health, you really need to have structural change. And structural change sometimes needs to come from the institutions where we spend most of our time in, right? Whether it's schools, whether it's work, we have to start from there. And so we were actually very early on in working with insurers, because I think one of the big things that we realize is that everything in your physical health is covered by by insurance. For example, you go to a GP, if you go to the panel, you will have that covered. Primary care, right? If you go to secondary care, for example, you need to see a specialist for whatever reason. You have your scans, your x-rays, whatever it is, it's also covered. Your surgeries, if you go, up into tertiary care, you have your surgery, you have care that's, I would say, more in-depth, that's also covered. But when it comes to mental health, especially, in 2020, it was not covered at all. In fact, it's an exclusion, not an inclusion. If they find out that you do have mental health, then they are not going to cover you. And so for me, this was one of the biggest issue, because a lot of people do not engage with their mental health in a more proactive manner because it's not affordable. It is not accessible. At the current market rates, it's anywhere between $250 to $500 for 1 hour. At the average pay of new grads in Malaysia now, 3.5K. That's a very big chunk of your salary.
Yes, yeah.
And so then how do you actually make it more affordable for people? You go upstream, right, and see, if it's not at the consumer level, who's going to pay for healthcare? You have employers, and then behind employees, you have the insurers. And so those are actually our two main channels. We have companies who hire us to work with them directly for their employees. We provide end-to-end care for them through the app ThoughtFull. And then you have insurers who essentially through the corporates as well as the individuals will distribute mental health coverage as well. And we were actually the first in the region to have mental health covered in this kind of manner. And today, I think we're we're very blessed. I mean, we work with the likes of AIA, Great Eastern, FWD and such. And so it's something that I think is the way forward, because at the end of the day, the payment model for healthcare is a little bit different. If you think about general healthcare, people who pay for it, very, very rarely will it be fully paid out of pocket at the individual level. You'll buy insurance and insurance cover. And so the payer models are different. It's usually at the insurer level, and it's also at the employer level. And so that's the level that we're working with.
I see.
Yeah, but that's the only way to get scale, to be honest, if we want to scale our impact.
Right. How do you, I mean, with a lot of these big corporations, obviously has to somehow fit to their bottom line, right? For people to be interested.
Yes.
But how I don't know how is it pitched, or like how do they understand why this is in their interest?
Yeah. Well, I think for employers, it's very simple, right? You have the triple threat right now, essentially. You have companies who constantly need to grow, but at the same time, they constantly need to cut costs. And so what you end up with is a group of employees who are working with you who are going to be ever increasingly carrying more and more workload. And that's what leads to burnout, as we talked about. That's why it's so ubiquitous now. So you need to grow more, you need to spend less, but you still need to retain all your key employees who are going to help you to get there. And so you really do have to figure out how to take care of your people, because there's a very direct impact on that. I mean, just think about it. You work with HR everywhere, right? How long does it take for them to backfill a role? For example, how much time have you lost, and how much outcomes have you also lost in upside gain for that person coming in? For every headcount that is lost, for example, so every employee that's not retained, it takes almost 4 times their annual salary in losses to actually cover back, because you have lost time. That's an opportunity cost of time. You've also lost productivity that would have otherwise been there and contributing to the growth. And there's a very direct impact on the bottom line right there. And so that's why when you look at the triple threats of, high growth, less costs, and also, employees needing to be retained, then I think the answer is very simple. You really need to take care of it. For the insurers, I think it's another layer to that. That is also true, because insurers are insuring your companies, right? But there's an additional layer to that, and that's really in how insurers make money. Insurers, at the end of the day, make money when you don't claim. So they want you to be healthy. Technically, the healthier you are, the more money they make, which actually is a great alignment. And so the same is true for mental health as well, right? The healthier you are, the more you'll make. Because, for example, if you think about it, a lot of times you pay premiums on a yearly basis. If you make 0 claims, great, they keep everything. But if, let's say, you have health conditions, you really need to, take care of your health, then it is something that will eat into their bottom line. And so I think there's a very natural alignment there, because the healthier you are, the more they make, and that's something you want to map. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's our very high energy sales team out there.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
At least he is working hard.
Yeah. Definitely work.
Is there a meeting room over there?
It's alright. We let it be natural. You can edit it out later, like it's too weird. So and jump to like your journey as a founder.
Yeah, sure.
So obviously you mentioned you're a solo founder. I'm a solo founder, and I find that people regularly ask me like, oh, how do you do it as a solo founder? And when I first heard this, I always thought, I never really, never really dawned on me that it was much more difficult than a co-founder kind of setup, right? So, but how is your experience being a solo founder in this journey so far? And are there any particular war stories or really like moments where, it's very heavy and, but somehow you turned it around?
I think, being a founder, whether or not you have co-founders or not, can be very lonely. It's a very lonely journey being a business owner. I think that's true regardless of how many people are involved. I think one of the things that I realized as well is that having co-founders is not it does not preclude you from continuing to do what you want to do. There are some setups where maybe a co-founder model would work, and then there are some where a single founder would work as well. At the end of the day, it's how you build the systems around your current setup to enable you to achieve what you want to achieve. And so, to be honest, I think having built networks around joining coaching groups with other founders, for example, has been very helpful. And most importantly, I think it's also getting the family and the spousal support, right? I think all spouses of founders will know how much time they spend on work when you're a founder. And I think I wouldn't be able to do it without the full support of my husband, for example, as well as my family support system. So I think it is something that has been, has it been easy? No, because since founding the company, I've also since had 2 children, and learned to put on another hat of motherhood, as well as being a business owner. And I think it is, again, as the journey through building the company evolves, I think being very open to knowing, or rather having the heightened self-awareness of where you are currently, where your limits are, that precipice again, knowing what you need, articulating what you need as well in order to continue thriving, making sure you have that support system there. And if you don't, put up your hand and ask for it, seek out that help and support. I think that's honestly the only way to go about it without really crashing and burning, because as you know, right, the highs are really high and then the lows are really low. And that kind of whiplash, mentally, emotionally, physically as well, it really takes a toll. And so you really need that system around you.
Right. And then in those moments, like, who checks in on Joan? Like, what is your system for like dealing with like challenges like that?
I see. I think there are different ones. And I'm happy to share as well, a time when it was really difficult. It was actually after the last fundraise. And it came at a time where, so I was fundraising, the last round was raised while I was pregnant. I signed the last contract when I was 2 cm dilated. on a gym ball. Last contract signed, closed. Oh wow! Few days later, I'm in the hospital. Baby is out. Great.
Inspiring.
Very highly productive week. And so it was really an environment where there was just so much going on. The family was transitioning from no kids to a kid. ThoughtFull was also transitioning from, your 0 to 1 to scale up phase. And there was a lot of things going on in terms of learnings as well. Finding the right people that you need for different phases of the company, knowing what your management style is as the company is growing. I've had a lot of learnings as well throughout this process. Dealing with the ups and downs of business. We went into an economic winter, for example, not just funding winter, but economic winter as well. And I think all of these things kind of came together, and it was really tough. And it's going through it was all happening when I was going through postpartum, because I'm like, I just gave birth. I'm transitioning, and you're continuing to manage a company, right? Thankfully, I had leads that were very helpful, that were holding the fort as well together. And I think at that point, when there was just so much going on, I was really lucky to, firstly, have a very supportive family and husband. I cannot emphasize that enough. For anyone who's planning to start a business, and if you're, in a relationship, make sure you have a proper chat with your counterpart and make sure they're fully supportive of your journey. Otherwise, it'll be a very hard journey to go through together. And so, he's constantly supporting and checking in on Joan. But I think at the same time, there were all these different support systems that were being put in place as well, right? Like I mentioned, I do have a coaching group. I'm part of a coaching group called C Founders. A bunch of founders who are all going through similar kinds of journeys. You have founders who have gone through the highest highs and the lowest lows as well, and being able to have that kind of safe space to share, because not everything can be shared with your employees. Sometimes not everything can be shared even if you had a co-founder, because it's a unique individual experience, and so having that to tap into was very helpful. And I think for me as well, it was really years and years of creating self-awareness. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of building daily habits. For example, I've started journaling from, 2010. So it's been 15 odd years now, of doing a practice of journaling, which then helps with reflection, helps with almost like a mental dump, for example. And then after that, from there, I will just help to structure how I'm, how I'm thinking about things.
Right. So it's on like a blank.
On a blank, yeah.
Right.
Dump everything down and then question what you've written. Ask questions about it. Try and structure it, put it into buckets, things like that, right? And so I think a lot of these tools were things that were very helpful when I was going through this almost like peak chaos, both on the home front and, at ThoughtFull. And ThoughtFull's chaos wasn't even like fully bad chaos. It was actually good chaos. We were expanding, and we were going from 10, 15 clients back then to more than 100. And so, and then now beyond, right? And so then you're scaling, you're putting in systems, you are maybe finding the right people to do those things. And so, when you're progressing through that, I think having all these muscles in your anatomy to help you pull back when it's too much, ask for help, is very important. So there was a point where I told my husband, look, I think I need more support, because I'm tired and there's so much going on. I cannot be fully present for the two things I care most about, right? Like my family and ThoughtFull. And so we actually sat down and then planned all of that. And so, yeah, I think self-awareness is important, and then reaching out to productively put systems in place to solve your problems is also important. Yeah. I'm
super curious now, because you said that you were heavily pregnant when you closed your fundraise. I don't ask this question, but just ask it directly. Did it become some kind of barrier to fundraise, the fact that you were pregnant?
Again, I think I'm always of the mindset that nothing is a barrier. You just have to find ways around it. But I have to admit that the environment in this space is not very well equipped to accept women founders who are building families as well. And so I actually did not tell anybody I was pregnant. Nothing was on it. There was no sharing at all.
Right.
That I was pregnant until the fundraise was closed.
Right.
Because the anxiety and fear was very real.
Right.
There are so many stories that I've heard firsthand from founders themselves, because when I found out that I was about to, have, I guess, this biggest blessing in life to start a family, I was also worried because I was actually on the road at that time fundraising. So I actually leaned into my female founder community and asked them, hey, what was your experience? Across the board, everyone basically said, just finish your race first before you tell.
Right, because it's like irrelevant information to them as far as you're concerned.
Which I think is so sad, and I really do want to change it. And I hope by sharing more openly and maybe at some point being more proactive in it, we'll be able to change the paradigm on this. Because we don't want something like this, which is the most beautiful thing, starting a family, to preclude anyone from seeing the objective lens of our performance. Because it doesn't mean, just because we're starting a family, it doesn't mean that we will not be able to deliver. Heck, if anything, I started delivering even better because I was so efficient with my time. The mothers have no time to waste. Every minute counts, get straight to the point, and then you make a decision and go. If anything, I became even hyper productive after. And so I think it's very sad that, I had founder friends who, after getting a term sheet, thought it would be the right time to let the prospective investor know that they were about to start a family. And then they got ghosted. This is true stories, yeah, firsthand. And all of that actually created quite a bit of anxiety on my front when I was in the middle of that journey as well. To really just get the race done first before I share it with anyone. Thankfully, I actually have very, not all, but most of them are very understanding investors, and it's part of life, and it's not a judgment on one's performance rather than it is looking at it as a whole. And I really hope that with time, this kind of funding landscape, the financial landscape, can change to be more inclusive, and not just in speech, but in actual actions. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will say, we support female founders, we blah, 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 but at the end of the day...
Right. I mean, talk is talk.
Talk is talk. What you do and what you actually, implement is important.
Right. Last two questions.
Sure.
And related. And the first question is related to what we just spoke about. So if there are sort of women who want to start a business or a new business, whether in tech or in whatever else, and obviously, we all know it's going to be challenging, whether you're a man or woman, right? It's going to be challenging. But let's say they are thinking of starting a tech business, but they hesitate. Right? They hesitate because they're hearing about all these, say, extra challenges they might have to face, right? And it is a somewhat male-dominated space, also tech and all that, right?
Tech, healthcare, finance, it's all male-dominated.
Oh, right. Entrepreneurship, by and large, also male-dominated, right? I think so. So, what would you say to that?
Don't be afraid to step into a pathway that's meant for you. Just because there are more men at the table doesn't mean that you can't be the first woman at the table alongside them. And if there's anything I realize as well, and it's also something I always have to proactively remind myself, because we've been so conditioned to work 3 times as hard just to get the same recognition. Know that if you are ready to start a business and grow it, you're probably already 2 steps ahead than anyone else. So we should never doubt ourselves, and we never have to do it alone, right? I think supporting each other in this journey to grow together is important, and not just finding a support network with other female founders, but also other male founders, because I think that ecosystem is what we make of it, and yeah.
Right. And that there are communities out there who obviously can.
Of course.
Right.
And just like with any job, right? You could be working in corporate and it's still going to be a male-dominated environment. Most of the board of directors are all also male dominated. So whether you're starting your own business, whether you're in corporate or wherever you are, majority of the time, that is just how the world is today. But it does not mean that, again, we should let it inhibit us from following the pathway or the calling that we're called to. We just have to know that if there are challenges, we can always overcome it. And there's a will, there's a way.
And last question. So to Malaysians out there, young Malaysians specifically, right? And they're very ambitious, and let's say they want to grow their career. And while they want to grow their career, if they feel that they're facing burnout and all that, how do you suggest they go about either seeking help or handling it?
I will actually reframe it. It is not just about seeking help when you are about to get burnout. At any stage, at any season of your life, you could be a student and you want to know how to be, the best, most all-rounded student that you can be. Or you could be someone entering the workforce for the first time and knowing how you can build the muscles to adapt as fast as possible to this new reality and environment of a working adulting, so to speak. Or you can be someone who is a middle manager, in your 30s, going into your 40s, building a family, entering the sandwich generation of having to take care of your elder parents, starting a family and take care of your younger parents. Bills are rising everywhere. All you see are bills, and yet are expected to rise up to your peak performance at your career by climbing the ladder at that time, at that sandwich generation time. You could be at any of these seasons in life. You should already be proactively thinking about how to be more self-aware, more mindful about where you currently are, physically, mentally, emotionally. Know and have a better understanding of yourself, of how you react to different environments. So a muscle of introspection, but more importantly, reflection is also important. And getting used to having someone to be your mirror. So when we say ThoughtFull is there through every season of your life as a well-being companion, it is not just when you are at burnout. It is actually to help you understand how you operate in this world, how you react to different scenarios. Know your operating model so well, and know when it is not working for you anymore, and when you need to refine it like an engine, refine it and make sure you adapt to the new season that you're in. All of that should be ongoing. If you do that, you don't have to talk about burnout, because you are constantly being aware of where you're at currently, and you're almost like course correcting along the way, so that you're in thrive mode. So I would say for sure, ThoughtFull's here to help with all the different tools that we have. But I think it's also important for you to know that it is not something that we should only have when things are going tough. It should be something that we deserve to have, so that we can actually thrive.
Oh, thank you, Joan, for sharing your journey with us so candidly.
Thank you
Yes.
for having me.
Yes. And I'm really, really happy to see how much the company has grown. Obviously, as you mentioned, we met in the early days when it was just an idea.
Yes.
And it's become something very, very real now. And I look forward to see ThoughtFull continue to grow and maybe help more people out there.
Yes, and thank you for being part of our journey in the beginning as well. And hopefully this will be the first of many conversations we'll have.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to the end of the episode. If you like this, follow us or hit the subscribe button. It will help us bring on more amazing guests and makes the whole show better for you. So thanks again and see you in the next one.